Well, we are here at Rossetti's on a rather warm afternoon, and we're here to celebrate with the alumni, people who have attended both the Burson and Wallace one-room schools. And I'll bet you all thought, when was the last time you heard about a one-room school? Thought, oh, well, maybe that ended in the 1800s. No, one of them closed in 1962, and one of them closed in 1958. So we're going to meet a number of the people from the schools. And here to give a nice warm welcome, in fact, all the welcomes today are warm, is David Farrington, who's the president of the Wallace Burson Association. Let's give him a nice round of applause. David.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Welcome. The Wallace Burson Association is especially honored to sponsor today's alumni reunion of the Wallace Burson schools. The last time a similar event took place was 1976. We honor each of you in being part of the historic tapestry that helped create Calaveras County's education system. Each of you attended one or at least one of the schoolhouses in the county and the state of California. Today we also posthumously honor someone who was an inspiration to the children of the Wallace and Burson schools. Additionally, we honor people from the present who have preserved the historic Wallace schoolhouses. Many of you provided us with photographs that appear in the souvenir program. We received so many photos that we could not use all of them. Consequently, we're looking at producing a separate booklet where most, if not all, of the photos can appear. Because of the historical significance, Public Access TV of Calaveras County is covering today's event. The videotaping and later broadcasts of this reunion will enable viewers to gain a better understanding of what it was like to be a student in a one-room school. I especially want to thank Caroline Bolia-Dahl, who attended the Wallace School, and her committee for putting on today's reunion. We hope that today's festivities will enable you to renew lost friendships and to rekindle memories of school days long past. Again, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you, David. And now it's always a pleasure to introduce Gary Toffanelli, who is the supervisor of District 1 in Calaveras County. So let's give him a nice warm welcome too. Gary.
Thank you very much. I'm asked quite often when I do these type of things, what is it that I would like to get accomplished during my term? And I tell you, there's among a lot of other things, obvious things, the jail to get it built, and bringing a college campus here to the lower end of the county is some of the things I'm actively working on right now. But so among those, the real things I like is to be able to accomplish is some of the things the service organizations in this county do, such as the things the Wallace Burson Association has accomplished in doing today. It's a wonderful thing that's going on right now. And one of the other things I'd like to accomplish is to be able to remember the speeches that I write. So I'm going to give you a speech that I wrote today. And I'm going to cheat a little bit, so I'm going to read some of it. So when I put my glasses on, please bear with me. But it's a real pleasure to stand here today and show the public, members of the Calaveras County Historical Society, and most importantly, members of the alumni that attended these two schools, what the dedicated hard work and true goodwill friendship the members of the Wallace Burson Association have accomplished here. The acts of painting the Burson School, placing of historical landmark plaques at these two sites, as well as organizing a reunion of the people who attended the classes here. What was once an idea and a dream, today has become a reality. With the events taking place here today, the public from now on and forward will have knowledge of the historical significance of these two buildings. I am truly honored and humbled to have these two buildings with the local history they represent in the district that I was elected to represent on the Board of Supervisors. I am very proud of the people who live in these local communities and have a true sense of what can be accomplished when we all work together to achieve a common goal. And I truly believe that, and there are many service organizations that I am involved in these local communities that the local people just work very hard to accomplish, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Gary. Actually, for this next man, I'm going to have to raise the microphone a little bit. He must have eaten a lot of good things when he was a kid, or had tall parents. Is that right? Were your parents tall? Not really. As I say, his parents were midgets. No, I'm just kidding. Anyway, the former superintendent of schools of Calaveras County Unified School District. A nice warm welcome for Jim Frost.
Thank you. I'm very honored to be here. I'm representing actually Mark Campbell, who is the present superintendent, and I'm very proud of Mark because our philosophy in Calaveras Unified has been to keep the tradition. That's one thing why I stayed 17 years as superintendent at Calaveras Unified, because tradition is important here. And Mark Campbell, our present superintendent, is a graduate of San Andreas Elementary School and a graduate of Calaveras High School. And we've developed a philosophy of really hiring our graduates and promoting from within. It's one of the reasons why I hope I share part of the history of Calaveras County, in that I was the longest serving superintendent of the Calaveras Unified School District ever, serving 17 years. I was also principal at Calaveras High. It was amazing at our Calaveras High 100-year reunion celebration, just the outpouring from the graduates that attended, how important it was to be at a high school in a small county, in a small environment, and what it meant to them in their entire lives. I think oftentimes people brush off these rural areas and these small one-room schoolhouses. I frankly am a product of a small school. I attended in Clovis Unified School District outside of Fresno, Fort Washington Union Elementary School. Well, there was once a Fort Washington school and a Lincoln school, but they had to combine them because they became too small. And I can remember in my days there in that small school environment, what sticks in my mind is that certainly justice was swift and often painful. I can remember my teacher, who was also the principal of the school, often saying, "Jim, bend over and grab your ankles," and I received the searing and stinging of both my pride and my bottom as I received the swats. And actually in the one reunion, somebody said, "Boy, those were the good old days." And I didn't think they were all that good, because I received more than my fair share of the justice that was meted out. But I just want to tell you a little story that shows you the significance of rural California and the significance of these small schools. I attended Chapman College in Orange County after high school, after going to Clovis High School. And while there, I took a philosophy class from a fellow by the name of Dr. Bert C. Williams. Dr. Williams had an incredible reputation. Those of us who signed up for his classes knew that we'd have the most vigorous, scintillating, wonderful, thought-provoking lectures, that we'd learn a ton, that we would actually shape our lives, and that was true. Dr. Williams in this philosophy class taught me first how to be an intellectual, how to think. He really changed my life as how I view the world, how I solve problems, how I establish a moral compass, and all of those things were so important. Dr. Williams was also a tremendously difficult instructor. If you chose to breeze through the readings, skim the readings, and write some essay every week that was not thoughtful and not well done, you would receive his scathing comments on your paper, along with a large red F. He had high standards and high expectations, and he forced me to read, to be thoughtful, to think, to formulate opinions and ideas based on the world's knowledge. And it really was a life-changing experience taking his class. I ran across Dr. Williams in 1993 at a Chapman Athletic Hall of Fame event. And he asked me, he said, "Jim, what are you doing these days?" And I said, I was so proud. I was the brand new superintendent at Calaveras Unified. And I said, "Dr. Williams, I am the new superintendent at Calaveras Unified School District." And he looks at me and he said, "My, what a small world." And this was just 3 years before his passing. He said, "I'm glad we're in good hands. I attended Burson School, and that was tremendous. It is a small world, and these schools are very important to produce PhDs and thoughtful individuals as him." So anyway, I want to welcome you here. Tradition is everything in our county. Tradition is everything in Calaveras Unified School District, and the kids that we have now really thrive because of that tradition that all of you have laid for them and the caring that you show them. I have a little special presentation. Sharon Wright. Where's Sharon? Sharon, come on up, Sharon.
You're not sharing all that story because the story you told me, he then told you to bend down and grab your ankle.
All right, Sharon. You know, my grandmother always told me, "Jimmy, sit up straight or you'll live hunched over all your life." Well, Sharon must have listened to my grandmother because she won an award from the county superintendent of schools. She was first in the Calaveras County posture examination. Sharon, tell us, what qualified you to be first? How did you win this award? Speak into that microphone.
Well, as I remember, I was in first grade, so this is going back a ways, that we had to walk across the school building with a book on our head, and we couldn't drop the book.
She's exactly right. In fact, we have the certificate here to present to her, signed Helen Lewis, the Calaveras County Superintendent of Schools, Sharon Wright, first grader, winner of the posture examination for Calaveras County. Let's give her a hand. Hold it, Sharon. You're not done yet.
Not getting away yet.
We want you to prove to us, keep this book.
Oh! Now I'm a little bit older, you know.
You walk back to your table.
Let's see you go.
2 steps.
She hasn't lost a thing.
That's your book.
Okay, we have a special presentation today, and we'd like to give something to Pastor Steve Brown of Tri-Lakes Baptist Church, and he really deserves it. I'd like to ask David Farrington to come up and make the presentation to him. Of course, how many years have you been maintaining the Wallace School?
This church started with the school, I think, in 1971. So that's 38 years, I guess.
A long time. Let me get you right in here. 38 years. What's your feeling about that as president of WBA?
I think that's amazing. That's remarkable. He's doing a great job with it.
And that's, of course, you all the expenses of painting it or siding it and everything.
Sure. If somebody wants to help us out, we'd appreciate it.
Oh, say that again.
I said if anybody wants to help out, that's appreciated.
Okay. Let's hear it for Pastor Steve Brown from Tri-Lakes Baptist Church. That's good. Thanks a lot. Nice to meet you. Wasn't that fast? Thank you, David. Okay, now we need Mr. Fagan and Mr. Hamrick and Caroline and Donna. We've got to get in real close, like we've been. You know, right? Like you've known her for years, Frank. Okay, a very special presentation that we want to make to the president of the Calaveras County Historical Society. And what I'm going to do is pass the mic to Gary Hambrick over in the end there. He's going to tell us a little about a special, very special person to whom we're going to, what should we say, whom we want to remember, right?
Right. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Gary Hamrick. I was born and raised in Wallace here, third generation here. I had the pleasure of knowing Austin, James, Dick Fowler. A lot of his family called him Dick. My family always called him Austin. He was a great guy. I can't remember, but he was within the top 5 or 7 of the quad amputees in the state of California. I had the pleasure of knowing him from the time I was born until I was about 26 years old and left Wallace, went in the service and got married and kind of disappeared from Wallace. But Austin was a true gentleman. He had adapted to his artificial limbs, which this accident happened to him before he was 21 years old. So as you're younger, you adapt to things more readily. But he could do just about anything that anybody else could do. He could drive a car, anything. And he was a great guy. A day like today, when it was hot, he would gather all us kids up in his car, drive us over to the Comanche, to the river, McCallamy River. We would swim. He'd done everything you could do for the community. And the community, in turn, helped him a lot because there was some things he needed help with. But he was a great guy. I knew him for basically 26 years. I cannot recall once when he ever grumbled about the weather, his body condition, or anything. He was truly a great guy, an asset to the Wallace community. So without further ado, I'm going to give the mic to his son-in-law, Mr. Fagan, and he can talk on.
Well, I wasn't prepared for this, so we'll probably make it a little bit short. But one of the things I remember the most about him, sometime in early in the middle part of the of '57, we was up there. I was going with his daughter, and he out in the backyard kicking the ball around with some neighborhood kids. And it was 3 months before I figured out he didn't have his own natural legs. I mean, he was a master at it. And he's been missed every day since. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's hear it for Mr. Fagan. Really nice round of applause. And of course, next on his left is Donna Shannon, and she is the president. How long have you been the president now, Donna?
Since July. July.
Are you a good president?
Of course.
Are you good for the nation?
Just the county.
Okay. And of course, standing to my right is Caroline Bolea-Dahl, and she is our event coordinator. We thank you for putting this all on.
Well, I also want to thank everyone else that helped in this, Barbara and Donnie Mearson and all the ones from the Rossetti family, from Joe and Linda and Lorna. I just appreciate it. Frank Fagan was here. They all cleaned up. Everyone has done a beautiful job in this hall. And I want to just say one thing. I grew up with the Fowlers, too. And we used to go to the movies together. He'd drive his car, and we'd go to the outdoor movies at Valley Springs. We had a great time. He was a happy-go-lucky man, always. Played the harmonica. He would sit out in front and whistle, you know, play a tune and just whistle, and it just amazing. Just an outstanding man.
Well, thank you very much. Did you behave yourself at the movies?
Yes, and also he told me, I forgot, he did tell me, he says, when you get your driver's license, I don't ever want to see you in my office, because he was the judge. He said, I do not want to give you a ticket. And he says, Caroline, that stands right there. And I never did go to his office and get a ticket for driving. Speed.
As far as he knew, right? Okay, but Mr. Fagan, I think it's correct if you would present that to Donna.
It gives me pleasure to pass this on to the Historical Society.
Thank you. We'll display it
He was a
very
big man.
prominently.
He was a very prominent man in this county in the earlier years. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's give a big round of applause to Gary Hambrick, Donna, Shannon, Frank Fagan, and Caroline. Thank you very much. Thank you all. Anyway, now it's going to be a pleasure. We're going to go and talk with some of the people who attended the Wallace School and the Burson School. I'm going to go out front here. And anybody, I always admire the person who says, who is the first person? Who is the first person? You don't want to be the last person. Now, who's chickening out? You must have eaten too much. Who wants to come out? Just give me a little remembrance about, come on, you can do it. Let's give her a round of applause. On this side. Very good. Now, what's your name?
Gloria
Gloria, you have a last name?
Brenner.
Okay. Now, is that your maiden name, married name? What?
No, my maiden name is Owen. O-I-E-N.
O-I-E-N.
Good Norwegian name.
Very good. Now, which school did you go to?
I went to Burson
Okay, how many grades?
from the 4th to the 8th.
Very good. You were so smart, you just started at the 4th, huh?
That's correct.
Now, what are some of your remembrances? What do you remember fondly?
Well, there's a couple of things. Mrs. Wadsworth was our teacher, and one day she came to school with 2 different colored shoes on. And of course we were all snickering, but she told us that she had to get dressed in the dark because it was winter. And the second thing is, we didn't have a wall clock. We had one of those old Ben Franklin things with the 2 bells on the side, you know, those little clocks?
I've heard about those, Gloria.
Right. Anyway, it sat up there on her desk.
Facing you or facing her?
Facing the class.
Facing the class, okay.
So this was getting close to summer vacation. So the boys started this, of course, not the girls.
Of course. Yeah. We've heard that before, huh?
One of them would get up and walk by the clock and give it this on the back.
Oh, to speed it up?
Speed it up. So that person would sit down, and pretty soon she'd turn her back. Another boy got up with the clock. We got out something like 11:45 before lunch, and the teacher would say, "Oh my goodness, today is going so fast, I can't keep up."
That's a great trick. Very good.
Anyway, the next day we had to stay after school and make up time.
See, it all comes back to you, doesn't it?
It does.
What goes around comes around. So you had a good time there, though.
Loved it.
How many in your class?
14
14.
in the school.
Yeah, in the whole.
I was the only one in my class.
Wow. You've got special attention then.
I did.
Good. How was a teacher able to handle 14 people with 8 grades? How could she do that?
Well, we were in rows according to class, and she would spend so much time with each one and go on up the line, and while she was with that class, the others would be reading or doing their arithmetic or whatever they're supposed to be doing.
No discipline problems?
Oh, yes.
Oh, that's a good frank answer. Okay. So every once in a while, would they make you sit in the corner, or what would you, what
I never got in trouble like that.
Okay. But what would they do with somebody who had to be disciplined, like, like Jim Frost?
Oh, whack 'em with the ruler.
Whack 'em?
Yeah.
Isn't that against the law? No, not then, right? It probably worked, didn't it?
It did work.
Okay. Hey, let's give a nice round of applause to Gloria. Thank you for coming up. Now, who's next? Okay, good. That's good. Now, we were talking earlier. Come over on this side, if you will. We were talking earlier. You went to Burson or Wallace?
Wallace.
Wallace. But you didn't graduate, you said.
I didn't graduate because they closed the school. I was the last class here.
Anything you did?
I think it must have been. Yeah. In 1962. I went through 1st through 5th grade there.
And then where did you go on to school?
Valley Springs after that.
Okay. Now, what are some of your recollections?
Well, lots. It was great. It was really fun, and it was good. But one thing I do remember is I guess they weren't really putting what I'd say their best and their brightest here all the time for teachers, and the teachers some of the ones I had early on. And then.
Any names?
Well, no, I won't go there. And then Mrs. Ashley came in my 5th grade year. And she was amazing, and I think somehow they just messed up and let her slip through somehow. And she got here, and she just put us all, she had about 10 of us, And she put us through the paces, and she was a bit on the grumpy side, but we knew what her expectations were, just like Jim was saying. She told us what she expected, what she wanted, and she was there to see that we did it. And put in the time after school, what lunch, whatever, you were going to do it no matter what. But about the discipline, my brothers went to school here, and I would see them get the paddle, and I was not going to let that happen to me. So I was a good girl.
Good.
So I wouldn't do that.
That's what we want. Only good girls here, right?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
let's give her a big round of applause.
Yeah,
Thanks a lot for sharing that. Okay. Thank you a lot. It's great to hear those stories. And I'll bet every one of you has not just one story, but 2 or 3 stories. Okay, we're going to get another volunteer. There's no pay for this, but it's rewarding in the sense that you can watch. Oh, we're going to get, oh, good. Now, see, 3 ladies who are very courageous, right, Gloria? It's the guys who make the trouble, right? Okay. Hi, what's your name?
I'm Martha
Okay.
Gates Johnson.
Martha Gates Johnson. Okay, that's a good moniker.
Yeah, it is.
And where'd you go to school?
I went to school in Burson all 8 years, 40 to 48, and then to Calaveras for the last 4.
Oh, boy. How many
Graduated as valedictorian.
Valedictorian. Wow, very good. That's nice. And from
Burson to,
From Burson.
to
Okay.
Calaveras High.
but a valedictorian at Calaveras High? Too. Okay, that's a pretty big class then.
Oh, yeah. We had at Burson only about 5 in our grade, I think. Barbara Castellan is sitting back there. She was one of my classmates.
And how many in the whole school when you were there?
It varied from 24 to maybe 30 in the all 8 grades.
With one teacher?
One teacher. Mrs. Spence was my first grade teacher, and if you didn't do the right thing, you put your hands on the desk and you got a rap with the ruler.
Well, just so it wasn't a yardstick.
Yeah, I remember a Mrs. Frazier that was very nice, and we learned a lot from her too. But I remember most going in September, the wood floors and the new smell of the oil. They oiled them with black oil.
Yeah.
And then we had a wood stove in the middle of the building that we had to keep wood in to keep warm in the wintertime.
Boy, it must have actually gotten pretty cold in the winter, huh?
Yeah, it did, a little bit. For California, you know, some frosty days.
You're not one of those people who had to walk miles to school.
Oh, no, I rode the bus I grew up at the Rockabella Olive Cannery, and I rode the high school bus from there to Burson store, and only had to walk the distance down to the schoolhouse.
Oh, that's good. So you felt you had a good education then?
I did, very good. Francis Kirk was one of my classmates, and he told me later that he and I scored very high on the achievement tests they used to put out.
Well, you must have gotten, when you go on to become valedictorian in high school, you must have gotten a good foundation in English and math and everything.
I did, a very good foundation, and like Gloria said, we were expected to do our work while the teacher was working with a different grade.
Good.
And of course, you learned from the ones in the class older than you because you were overhearing some of that too. So it really rounds out your education.
I heard that sometime when a teacher was taking care of some of the younger students, that some of the older students would actually take some of the younger students and teach them. Yeah.
We did for their basic reading and writing and arithmetic.
Well, that's great. Martha, thanks a lot. Let's give her a nice round of applause.
Thank you.
Martha, thank you. Let's see. Gary, will you come back? I mean, you said you went. Come on. Let's get Gary back. Let's give him a round of applause. Gary Hamrick. I'm sure you all have all kinds of stories here, but the ones so far are really good. Or we could all get on Jim, give him a bad time. Gary, so what are your recollections?
Well,
We got to get that real close.
I started in 1940, graduated in 49. Now, those of you doing the math, I was there for 9 years. I was having such a good time, I didn't want to leave. But I will say this. We did have some outstanding teachers. Discipline, well, I guess we were pretty easy to discipline. It wasn't too bad. I didn't stand in the corner too much, and if anybody should have, I did. But anyhow, we got a pretty good education. You didn't know it till you went on to high school, to dear old Calaveras, and you seen how you fit in with the rest of the kids scholastically, and you found out you did learn something up here at Wallace. But it was not a very big enrollment. We had basically 11, 12 to 14 normally, probably around 12 or 13. Like Martha said, when the olives were ripe up at the cannery and they were all picked by hand, sometimes the enrollment would increase to like over 20. That was a pretty big job for a one-room school teacher with only one teacher and no teacher's aides to take care of 20 kids, and there was kids in every one of the 8th grades. But there wasn't a lot to do. We played games outside, inside when it was raining, and like I say, I think we got a pretty good education there, but it was interesting. Everybody got along with the teacher. The parents were very active with the teacher. And not only did you have to watch out for the teacher and your parents, but everybody in town. If you done something wrong, they got you just as good as your parents. That's about all I got to say.
Well, I think that...
I want Ray and Joan to get up here. They were my classmates. There was 3 of us in the class when we graduated, and they can get up here and tell a little bit of the stories.
Okay, thanks a lot, Gary. Let's hear for Gary. Okay, where Ray? Here's Ray. Okay, Ray, so you went to Burson, right?
No, I went to Wallace.
Oh, he said you were a classmate.
Yeah, 41 to 48.
Oh, okay.
He went to Wallace, too.
Is that what he said?
Yeah.
Okay, he's not trying to fool us. is he?
No.
Okay.
No. Oh, I got several things. One of the things was we always look forward to the Christmas plays. We had quite a presentation at Christmas time every year. They put sheets up across for the draw curtains, and everybody took part in the Christmas program, and it was a pretty big deal. People from all around this little end of the county would come to see the Christmas program. And then one of the other things, Gary actually helped.
I got to ask, was the whole school, everybody was in that?
Everybody was in it. Everybody had a part in the program.
So you didn't leave anybody out?
Oh, no. Everybody had to participate. And then one of the things that Gary did help me out on was one time when I was probably in the lower grades, we had outdoor toilets. So
I can't believe that. So outdoor toilets at a one-room school?
And so I was kind of curious as to what was going on in the bottom of that toilet. And so I took a bunch of toilet paper one time.
Wait, what did he just say? He wanted to know what was going on in the bottom of the toilet. Ray, are you all right?
I'm okay.
Okay, good. Tell us then.
So I put a bunch of toilet paper down there, and I had a match from someplace. So anyway, I dropped the match in there, and lo and behold, the whole thing took off. And I had quite a fire going in the toilet with smoke coming out the smokestack. And so I decided we didn't have any plumb water, so we had a water bucket in the anteroom of the schoolhouse. We had a tin cup next to the water bucket, so I would go, and with a tin cup, I was going in, trying to put the fire out, running back and forth between the outdoor toilet and the water bucket. Well, Gary saw me running back and forth, and then I guess he noticed the smoke coming out the top of the toilet.
Well, he probably smelled it.
Well, he was a little bit bigger and stronger than I was, so he picked up the whole bucket, and he came and dumped it down the toilet hole, put the toilet out, saved the outdoor toilet, and so.
Now, did you get disciplined for that?
Not that I can recall. They just gave me a hard time about it.
Oh, I don't know. Now, any other stories similar to that?
No,
that was the worst.
From about the 4th or 5th grade on, my aunt actually was teaching school, and she lived with us at the same time. So I had to keep a pretty narrow rein on everything.
Now, have you followed the straight and narrow ever since then?
Pretty much so, yeah. I got good training in Wallace.
Would you become a fireman or a plumber?
No, chemist.
Oh, a chemist. Okay, let's hear it for Ray. Those are great stories. Thank you, Ray. Now, did things happen like that in your school?
Oh, yes.
Jim said, okay. Now, we can take, 2 or 3 more, I'm sure. We got to get Courage up here. Oh, there she comes. There she comes. She just happened to think of, she happened to be sitting in the outhouse at the time. No, no,
I can tell you something about that.
Okay, this is Lynn.
And that's my cousin, Ray.
Oh, cousin Ray.
Yes.
Well, we're in big trouble.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because what I remember is Dean Eastep and I and all the rest of us, Dean tied this rope on the tree by the outhouse, this big long rope, and so then we, all us little kids, would climb on top of that old outhouse and swing out on that rope, and that was the way we entertained ourselves for our recess. That was kind of innovative.
When you'd swing out the end, what was at the end? You'd drop off?
No,
then?
we just swing back and forth.
Oh, back and forth.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wasn't over a pond or anything?
No, we didn't have any ponds.
Okay.
No.
Anybody hurt during your years there?
Yes. Jimmy Thornburg, who is deceased now, climbed up on a ladder to fix a basketball hoop and fell off the ladder and broke both his arms.
Oh, that's not good.
Yep.
He recovered fully?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Any other stories you'd like to share? Were you a good student?
Not particularly.
Did you become
A
better?
nurse, and yeah.
Oh, you
yeah,
became a
yeah.
nurse? Well, you must have been very good.
So I learned something there.
I hope you don't tell your patients this. Well, I went through school. No,
I think I had Mrs. Goodman, who was so wonderful, and I think she brought us up to speed. I don't think we were probably where we should have been until she came. And then that made a big difference for us.
What were the requirements for teachers then? I mean, they had, of course, gone through college, but they had to get certificates or what?
You know what, I remember Florence Goodman was constantly taking classes to get her credential. I don't believe she really was a credential teacher, but I think that there was, they made some kind of adjustment for them. I don't know.
Well, as you know, a certificate does not make you a good teacher.
That's right, but she was wonderful. She did all kinds of things for us.
Okay. Well, Lynn, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you for owning up that you're related to Ray. Okay. Thank you. Okay, those are, we could make this into a masterpiece theater, and have it on PBS. Oh, good. Here she comes. Nice colored blouse, too. That's what I like. And your name is Marjorie, right? Hi,
yes.
Marjorie. Which school did you go to?
Wallace.
Wallace, okay. What are your memories?
Oh, a lot of them. I went there 8 years.
Well, that's
Yeah, I rode horseback to school.
And the horse would stay there with you and
Yeah,
take a class?
We had a barn.
Oh,
We had a barn. I wasn't the only one that rode. Oh, yeah. Yeah, several other kids rode to school, too.
But there was a place to keep the
Oh,
horse?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But later on, when there was grass, green, and schoolyard was large, we could just turn them loose in the schoolyard and let them eat grass. We let them graze.
Oh, that's good.
We let them graze. And then two of my children went to school there, and they also rode to school. But at that time, the school nurse said no horses on the grounds. And they had torn down the barn, but the horses couldn't stay on the ground, so they had a little pasture outside that they had to turn the horses loose in that during school.
How far did you have to ride from home?
2 miles.
2 miles. Well, that's a good trip.
And my folks' ranch was under Comanche Lake.
Good. Now, what are some of your other memories there?
Well, Mrs. Manning was our teacher, and my class I was in, we'd had an hour for lunch. And there was just an old barbed wire fence above the schoolhouse, fenced off the hill. And there was wildflowers one spring, beautiful wildflowers. And we asked her if we could go up on the hill and eat our lunch. And she let us go up on the hill and sit and eat our lunch. Well, we were up there a little while, and then my cousin who lived over in the Comanche Road, she says, well, let's walk over to our house. It isn't going to take very long. So we took off across the hills, and we were over on the old Comanche Road. Got to her place, and her mother says, what are you doing here? And we just lost track of time. We were having such a good time out in the wildflowers, and we got back to school, of course, real late. I can't remember that anything happened to us, but it was kind of strange that we took off and just went across country.
That's good. And how many in your class?
3 when I graduated.
Okay, and how many in the whole school when you were there?
It varied between 20, probably to start with, and then it got down to lower numbers.
Okay. Yeah. Just before I let you go, what do you think, and you probably had 3 or 4 different teachers over the years?
Well, I had 2.
2, okay.
2.
What made, in your mind, when you're in grammar school like that, in elementary school, what made a good teacher? What qualities?
Well, well, she had to have discipline, kids, and Mrs. Manning was very good at putting on programs, like all these plays, and everybody had to get in those and act and perform, play music, sing, do all kinds of things like that.
So helping everybody participate.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody felt pretty equal.
We had spelling bees. We had a lot of things.
You a good speller?
I only missed 3 words, I think, in 3 years or something. I was a good speller and I was a good reader, but I wasn't that good in mathematics.
How many here can spell hors d'oeuvres? Okay, I won't ask you. Let's nice round of applause for Marjorie. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Well, let's see, we can still take a couple more. Pardon? Oh, someone's volunteering for you. Okay, okay. Yeah, Caroline said, you will come up and speak. Okay, and if the chairperson for the event, that's Marjorie's daughter. Okay. Did you go there? Did you go to one of...
I attended Wallace from 49 to 55.
Oh, okay.
And I started school in 49, and I got to school, and they told me I was too young to really start. So even though I was with another couple people that are here today, I had to go home and sit it out for a year and come again.
Oh, good. What was the cutoff date? September or when?
I think it was March 1st because I was March 12th. My birthday was the 12th. Okay. But I was already reading when I came the first time.
Wow.
So when I came back, I was quite a ways ahead. And I did ride my horse to school at 2 miles, and I started riding at 5, and I rode a full-size horse. And I used to tie the horse up to a ring in that big oak tree that's still standing here next to Rossetti's. And the first year I did that because I was too small to put my saddle on the horse. So when I came after I spent a year at home and came back, well then I turned the horse loose in a pasture and I was still too small to put the saddle on. So I'd go down, catch the horse, bring it up to the schoolhouse, and then the big kids would put my saddle on. The problem is that they didn't tie the saddlebags down well on one particular time. So I'm riding home, and I'm riding on the old road, which was on the top of an embankment over the road today, and the horse started bucking. Well, I could stick like glue, but the horse went over the embankment down to the road, and the horse fell down. I stuck with him, and fortunately no damage was done. And later, Gary Hamrick's mother, Bert, told my mom that I'd stuck to the horse, and she told her the whole story. So I was really ticked because I figured the kids had done something like putting a burr under the blanket. Yeah. But Bert said it was the saddlebags that were flopping. Okay. So anyway, later I will say, I turned out to be a teacher mainly because of Mrs. Goodman that Lynn talked about. And my recollections of her was that she was completely selfless. She bought materials out of her own pocket that the district didn't have the money to buy in order to enhance our education.
Was Arnold Schwarzenegger governor then?
No.
They don't have any money now. I didn't know he was in office that long. So she would buy things of their own.
Well, she bought extra books for us. She decided that the teaching method that the state was proposing didn't teach phonics, and Lynn was reminding me today that she bought phonics books for us so we could learn to read better. She bought a lot of art materials for us so we could do some really nice art projects. But and it was a wonderful experience.
It sounds good too. Riding your horse to school sounds great. Nice round of applause for Linda. Thank you. While I'm waiting for our next volunteer, I do want to thank Joe Pena for the use of Rossetti's and thank the people here. They've been very nice to work with. And I want to thank Ples Hill, too, who's producing the television segment of our reunion today. And thank Ed Lark, too, from Public Access Television. I think we have another volunteer. There's someone back there twisting his arm. Okay. Boy, did you all eat a lot? Was it pretty good? Yeah, that was good. Okay, very good. Let's hear it for the chef then. Hi, Gary.
Yeah, Gary.
Yeah.
How you doing?
Pretty good.
We have some gift certificates here that were given to us to pass out, and I'd like to know who's the oldest alumni here for a gift certificate.
Good idea. Who is let's see, who wants, okay, so first we'll start. Who's over 75? I am, okay. Okay, who's over 80? Anybody over 80? Okay, who's are you 80? Okay, anybody over 80? How old are you, Marjorie? Pardon? Is that right? You must eat the right foods. Anybody older than Marjorie? Marjorie, come on up then. Gary has something for you. What do you have in there, Gary?
We got a lube oil and filter service, a tire rotation, and a gym membership.
Gym membership for people over 80 is good.
Thank you. Yeah, you're welcome. And then who's come the farthest?
Okay, thanks a lot, Marjorie. Let's hear it for Marjorie. Give her a round of applause.
The farthest attendee?
Okay, who came farther than like 100 miles? Who came farther than 80? Oh, you did? Where? Oh, did you that far? Okay, come back, Linda. Come on. Wow, that's anybody else over 100? How far did he come? How many miles? How many miles, Dean? He doesn't want to say. Must have come from Sierra Conservation. Pardon? Fort Bragg. Now, how far did you come from, Linda?
Port Townsend, Washington.
Port Townsend, Washington. Well, nobody's come from another state. Let's hear it for Linda then. Thank you. That's a long ways.
And this is when anybody to volunteer for a 3-month exclusive gym membership?
Okay. Gary, and I think anybody who's in politics needs to go and relax and exercise, right?
The spa's included, right?
Okay, yeah, the spa's included, but not a massage. Okay, okay, Gary, thank you. Thanks, Gary. Let's give him a round of applause. Okay, we're just about to wind things up, but we will take one more person. Pardon? I think you should be a director, Caroline. You know, to whom are you pointing? That's so Marjorie will know that. Josephine? Oh, Josephine said she's holding it for network television. Okay, okay. Yes, Caroline, you must have.
Caroline, you need to get out.
Well,
Come on, Caroline.
okay.
Give us a story.
Okay, let's hear it for Caroline.
Well, one thing about it is when we went to school over here at Wallace, we'd have, every Friday we would go behind the school up there in the mountain and have a picnic.
Oh.
We'd walk. Mrs. Goodman would take us out and we'd pick up wildflowers and all that. We had a lot of parties and picnics at, right by Calaveras River. We had, I believe it was the end of the school year. And we had one person in the school that was David Sisson, and he would go to the river and look for a snake. I'll never forget it. He'd get a snake, and then he'd catch it by the neck and wrap it around his arm, and then pick it up to us and show us. I'll never forget that. And we had a lot of fun, and she'd always had parties and get-togethers. And
You know whatever happened to David Sisson?
No, we tried to find him. But
Because there was a fellow by that same name who went on and became very well known as a television host.
Oh.
Back east.
No.
Yeah, so I don't know if it was.
No, I don't believe this one was. I don't know what happened to him.
He probably
We were trying to go.
Probably with the circus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
He's a snake charmer.
Snake charmer, yes. No, we had a lot of good times. And then one thing about these boys over here, take Gary Hamrick and Joan, she was Swab, and I believe, who else was it? I don't know if Donnie was involved or anything, and maybe Ray wasn't. But it was kind of Halloween. When Halloween came, they had a big surprise when they went around, and they were, well, I believe it was over there at Judge Flowers, they dumped a hothouse out over, and it was full of skunks.
Oh.
And boy, did they run. And then we also had a good time where they'd come up the ranch on Halloween, and they'd take my father's hay wagon and put it down for sale in Wallace. And we just had a good time, us kids all in Wallace here.
Boy.
We had a great time.
Somehow it doesn't surprise me that Ray was involved.
Yeah, I don't know where he was,
yeah.
but I know Gary was in it, and Joan, and
Yeah.
there was other ones that we all had a great time.
Good.
We had great teachers. Yeah.
Very good.
Mrs. Goodman was one of them.
Caroline, thanks a lot. Thanks
Yeah,
for putting
thank
this
you.
on, too, and all your
yeah.
efforts and all your staff.
I want to thank all the other workers that work very hard in here.
Okay, all the best to you.
Yeah, thank
Nice
you.
round of applause for Caroline. Well, I think we're just going to wrap it up for today. Thank you all for coming. Thank you for your stories, and thank you for your good humor. Thank you for your patience today, too, because it is a rather warm afternoon, and we appreciate everything. Once again, thanks to Joe Pena here at Rossetti's, to all the people. Thank you, Jim. Thank you, David. Thank you, Gary. And I hope you enjoy this. Just sit back and relax and think of where you went to school, what you did, and they didn't catch you. Okay. Thank you. Oh, it's getting hot. Those are good stories.